We're going to have ourselves a mainly quiet evening, especially if you're East River, but to the west it'll be a different story. Showers and thunderstorms, a few of which could pack an extra punch, as well as that smoke does also gradually get on out if you're West River as well. Low temperatures for what it's worth in the upper 50s to low to mid 60s. Then for your day tomorrow, another round of showers and thunderstorms possible, this time central and eastern KELOLAND, with temperatures taking a step forward on the thermometer. That's going to be one of the trends we take a look at over the next 7 days. More on that in your extended forecast. But until then, First at 4 starts right now.
Live from KELOLAND Media Group, KELOLAND News First at 4.
Support is coming in from across the Midwest for the Fargo police officer killed in the line of duty.
Plus, lawmakers are now questioning Ivy League universities about their plans for affirmative action after it was struck down by the Supreme Court.
And later, we head to a powwow in Iowa to bring awareness to the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. Good afternoon, and thanks for tuning in to First at 4. I'm Don Jorgensen.
And I'm Kelly Volk. The South Dakota Department of Corrections is alerting the public about the upcoming release of a registered sex offender who has a high risk to reoffend. 28-year-old James Hanscom is serving time for attempted sexual contact with a child. His sentence expires on July 20th. And
because he served his entire sentence, he will not be on parole supervision or any monitoring. Hanscom is being released to the Sioux Falls area. The DOC says that based on his criminal history and institutional assessments, he has a high risk to reoffend.
The South Dakota Highway Patrol has released the name of the person killed in a farm implement accident near Langford. Authorities say 45-year-old Michael Patton died on the way to the hospital. Investigators say a woman was operating a field sprayer when the boom of the sprayer hit a parked semi. Now, Patton was standing next to the semi and he was hit by the sprayer. The Highway Patrol continues to investigate the accident.
Tributes are pouring in for Officer Jake Wallen, the Fargo police officer who was killed in the line of duty. He was just 23 years old. On Friday, a gunman killed Wallen and critically wounded 2 other officers. The suspect, 37-year-old Mohammed Barakat, was shot and killed by another officer. A woman who was also seriously hurt in the shooting. Investigators say that the officers were responding to an accident when Barakat opened fire. Authorities say that it did not appear that the suspect had been involved in the crash that police were working on. Neighbors who lived next to the suspect had to evacuate their apartments as police searched his apartment.
What was your reaction to hearing his name and realizing that was him just right next to you?
It's scary. I see, that's what Daniel and I were talking about. It was like, you know, you remember the McVeigh bombing, you remember all these stuff, and Pulse nightclub, then it makes you wonder.
The scene of where Officer Wallen was shot on Friday now has flowers, balloons, and signs in his memory.
An 18-year-old man is behind bars in Sioux Falls for allegedly threatening people who had offered him lunch. Investigators say Anthony Barrera approached some people painting in the downtown area. Police say he ate lunch with the painters when he pointed what looked like a gun at the group. Officers say Barrera threatened to kill them because he was, quote, with a cartel. Authorities say he did not have a gun. Instead, it was a loaded magazine. Barrera was arrested on 4 counts of aggravated assault.
All right, let's get a look at our weather. Did you have a nice smoke-filled weekend?
It was smoky out there.
It sure was, and it's probably going to continue for a while.
At least for the rest of the evening, especially if you're out in western KELOLAND. We actually got a decent bit of improvement in our East River communities, so you could see that difference even just looking up in the sky if you were in, we'll say, Sioux Falls, for example. Out in Rapid City, like you see behind me, though, it has been a different story. That smoke has been rather stubborn. 81, a southeast wind at 15 miles per hour, but there is good news. This smoke will continue to be scoured out as we head through the rest of the evening and overnight as well. So there is improvement out for our West River communities. But speaking of what I was mentioning, East River, Take a look at Aberdeen. Noticeably better than really anything we had this past weekend. 74, that's a view to the northwest. Not much of a breeze to speak of, so it's been a pretty calm afternoon. In fact, really, the entirety of our East River communities have been pretty calm today, even right down to the lack of a significant breeze. 78 right now in Sioux Falls. That's also our high temperature, by the way. 75 Mitchell, 74, as you saw a little bit earlier toward Aberdeen. 79 Spearfish, 76 in Custer. Also seeing some mid to upper 70s for Winter and Pierre. So here is a visible satellite, and really there has not been a whole lot of anything going on over the last about hour or so, though we have had some cloud cover starting to stream in a little bit ahead of what we're going to be watching later this evening. And what we're watching for later this evening is something like what we saw earlier in Kansas. Notice that severe thunderstorms just exploding over the central part of the state, and we may see some of that activity fire up a little bit later in the evening and into the first part of your night, so you'll want to stay weather aware. For the rest of your night and into the day tomorrow, however, we do get ready for a bit of a change, and not a good one if you like your outdoor activities to stay dry. We do have the chance for thunderstorms tomorrow in southeastern KELOLAND, mid to upper 70s for high temperatures there. Same rules apply up to the northeast, around 80 towards Sisseton and Aberdeen. Out to the west, we warm up a little bit more. We'll be in the mid to upper 80s, even a few low 90s possible down toward Hot Springs. Speaking of hot, it gets pretty hot by the end of the 7-day forecast. We'll go into more detail on that and what we're looking at later this evening, all coming up as we head through the hour.
All right, thanks a lot, Adam. We are following some breaking news out of Iowa this afternoon. A judge has temporarily blocked the state's new ban on most abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy.
This comes just days after Governor Kim Reynolds signed the measure into law. It banned almost all abortions once cardiac activity can be detected.
The judge's decision now means that abortion is once again legal in Iowa up to 20 weeks of pregnancy, while the courts assess the new law's constitutionality. Well, several South Dakota lawmakers are now circulating a petition to call for a special session over the state's eminent domain laws.
This comes about a week after landowners and legislators held a rally against CO2 pipelines, urging Governor Kristi Noem to call a special session. The demonstrators want lawmakers to look into eminent domain laws that two companies are using to gain access for their proposed carbon dioxide pipeline projects.
The petition will need to be signed by at least two-thirds of the members of the South Dakota House of Representatives and two-thirds of the Senate in order to call a special session. One U.S. senator is warning that liberal arts colleges and Ivy League schools not to disregard the Supreme Court's ruling striking down affirmative action policies in the admissions process.
KELOLAND News Washington, D.C. correspondent Rashad Hudson has the details.
Ohio Republican Senator J.D. Vance is demanding Ivy League schools comply with the Supreme Court's recent affirmative action ruling.
They're free to disagree. They're free to criticize it.
But Vance says they must follow the law. Shortly after the ruling, he sent letters to top universities, including two schools in his home state, warning them against circumventing the Supreme Court's ruling.
But when these administrators are saying we're going to find ways to not follow the law, that really worries me, and it does give me some cause for concern.
Vance says if schools do not comply with the Supreme Court's ruling, he will launch a congressional investigation.
We want people to get ahead in this country, to get ahead in college admissions based as much on merit as possible. I don't think we want to divvy up spots in college admissions based on skin color.
Ohio Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown disagrees with the court's decision.
To me, it's about giving people opportunity, and the Supreme Court doesn't seem to see it that way.
Brown says now his focus is on expanding opportunities for all students.
The Supreme Court doesn't seem to care about those working class kids, and I do, and we're going to make it happen.
Brown says he plans to do that by working to make college more affordable and expand work training programs. Reporting in Washington, Rashad Hudson.
Well, you have another chance to win the Powerball jackpot tonight as the grand prize grows to $900 million.
All right, the jackpot ranks as the third largest in game history and the seventh largest on record in the U.S. And people in KELOLAND are hoping to get in on the winnings as they buy tickets ahead of tonight's drawing. Coming up tonight at 6, we're going to talk with people who are hoping to win the jackpot.
I know where I should go afterwards.
Same.
Yeah. Well, while the Mega Millions and Powerball prize pools continue to expand, the South Dakota Lottery announced a winning Dakota Cash ticket worth more than $153,000. The ticket was bought at the Casey's General Store on West 57th Street in Sioux Falls.
So get out your ticket if you were there, because the winning numbers are right here: 3, 9, 19, 31, and 32. And if you are Saturday's winner, you're asked to sign the back of your ticket immediately and then visit a South Dakota Lottery Validation Center to claim your prize.
Well, someone's about to have a good week.
Wasn't me.
Me neither.